Rarog subclade of Svarog clade, revised adaptation schema for clade ship of the 3 tactical troika classification has been accepted for imprinting in advancing time generations after cladistic glorification over Domovic subclade within tactical subrole of the urination of rapid flow, preparation in effect for the extirpation of corrupted Narodina. Introducing the Mixcoatl class Interceptor, a Tech 2 frigate invented from the base schematics of the missing Tech 1 blueprint for the Triglavian Rarog class attack frigate. Now what the hell is this, you ask? Those of you who are not familiar with the oldest and most popular space MMO and the most content-rich and complex game ever, EVE Online, probably think I've completely lost it, and you're wondering if this is some kind of creative brain vomit I'm producing here. I assure you every aspect of this has kind of a meaning to it. I could be designing a ship, which is a mere frigate, that will be a cancer for the game because I'm going to make it good. No, not awesome, just good. And you may ask why introducing a ship that is merely good in the game would be a problem. Well, it almost always is for EVE Online because there are always some clever players that will min-max a new ship and make it so good that it's kind of broken. This has happened already many times before in EVE, and this is why the game developers have had to do so many rebalancing patches to correct the issues over the years. The Triglavian ships have occasionally been a case study in this. What the hell is a Triglavian, you may ask? Well, in the universe of EVE, they're a kind of awakened ancient ascendancy, thousands of years ahead in evolution and technology compared to the other empires, but they sort of come across like a stagnant ascendancy, very much like in the game of Stellaris. They've been stuck in abyssal space doing God knows what in there, both to their bodies and their technology, and they've been unable to emerge back into the galaxy until recently, and damn it do I love them. It takes a kind of inquisitive and curious mind to appreciate the entire concept of the Triglavians, which I could go on at length about, but I have to stop myself before I start going on some sort of weird monologue here. But basically the Trigs are awesome. They do everything in threes. A lot of their language and culture seems to be based in Slavic mythology. They are low-key inspired by the Trisolarans from the Three-Body Problem novels, and I have to stop myself again. So I've decided to solve a couple of problems in the game of EVE Online, and if I could sort of mod it and add this ship in, I would. The first problem is with the Interceptor frigates. Okay, it's not really a problem, but the role of Interceptor frigate, such as the infamous Minmatar Stiletto, is to very quickly warp disrupt a target so that they cannot escape into warp, and they must face what is often a very non-consensual PvP fight. This is all part of the dynamic of EVE Online. Don't think of it as a fair game of chess. Think of it as sort of an ecology where if you're not the hunter, you are the prey. An interceptor is not meant to do a lot of damage. It's meant only to ensnare a target so that your fleet mates can actually destroy it. For this reason, interceptors have a decreased signature radius depending on your pilot's skill level when they're using the super fast micro warp drive module. This means there's kind of like a radar cross-section for every ship in EVE, and the smaller this radar cross-section is, the harder it is for weapons to hit the ship. Interceptors are also very fast, and they have the option of pursuing or escaping at will. Their weaknesses, of course, is they don't normally do a lot of damage, and their speed is mitigated by a warp scrambler or a stasis webifier, which are relatively short-range weapons. And they're very weak as far as tank, and they can easily be dispatched if caught in this way. Imagine disappointing about 10 of your fleet buddies because you as the interceptor got himself killed by the very prize that you're hunting. Then you have to go all the way back to your base or a trade hub, get a new interceptor while your buddies are waiting for you. It's so discouraging. The problem is that interceptors are highly reliant on the micro warp drive speed boosting module to stay out of the dangers of close range combat. There is another module that doesn't give you as much speed as the micro warp drive but cannot be shut down by a warp scrambler, and that's the good old fashioned Afterburner. There is one pirate nation that has mastered the use of the Afterburner, and that would be the Sancha's nation, which in my opinion is even more terrifying than the Psycho Blood Raiders, because Sancha, the main guy, will just take over your brain and make you his minion. Sansa ships, ugly as they are, have inherent bonuses to Afterburner speeds. This gives them an almost broken advantage because it makes their sig radius, which is pretty much like a radar cross section, small and hard to hit, unlike the micro warp drive.
the Afterburner cannot be shut off by the short-range warp scramblers. True, even with bonuses to Afterburner speed, ships such as the Succubus cannot reach the pass-out speeds of an Interceptor with a micro-warp drive, but it's still very fast with an Afterburner and very nasty at close to medium ranges. They can control the range from which they fight quite nicely. So the Triglavians, well, they hate Sansha's nation, and I believe at some point EVE will have another major event with the Triglavians where they will have to fight the Sansha pirates, and it will be a whole big deal like the Triglavian invasion a few years back. But the Trigs have only one frigate of their own, the Domovic, and it's okay, but it's not great. In fact, it's probably the most underwhelming ship of the entire Triglavian line. It is classed as a combat frigate with some support ability. So here we'll fix another problem. The Triglavians, in studying one of their primary enemies, have figured out the secrets to boosting the speed of Afterburners. No, not as well as the Sansha's nation, but good enough to come up with an attack frigate which is an alternative to the Domovic, which they will call the Rarog, which is, in Slavic mythology, a fire demon depicted as a fiery falcon, and with an Afterburner speed bonus, comparable but not as good as something like a Succubus. But it could have a weapons range bonus, enabling it to strike out at long range. In PvP, this would be similar to something like an Imperial Navy Slicer. Now what happens with these Triglavian ships is that some corporation in the major empires studies these ships, and they try to invent a Tech 2 variant that is far more powerful than the original, and then they name them. For example, the T2 variant of the Domovic is the Nurgle Assault Frigate, which is something Creodrone of the Gallente Federation first invented. Similarly, this happens with all the T2 variants of Triglavian ships, which are excellent, expensive, and often depart from Slavic folklore with their naming convention. So in this case, my endgame character, Maximillian Bonaparte, who is currently enrolled in the Angel Cartel militia, and for a time was something of a Kybernaut, a kind of Triglavian cultist, coordinates the invention, using some angel technology, of the Mixcoatl, which is the Nahuatl word for an Aztec deity known as the god of the hunt, and represents the stars of the Milky Way. The Mixcoatl Interceptor gets all the usual Interceptor bonuses, a bonus to Afterburner speed, and a bonus to its disintegrator turret range, but no damage bonus. So it can fight at long range, very much like the Kikamura Destroyer, the Beam Retribution, or Imperial Navy Slicer, but it will take a long time for the entropic disintegrator damage to ramp up to a maximum level. And if it's up against slower ships, it can simply turn its micro-warp drive off, only use an Afterburner, and be ridiculously hard to hit due to a reduced signature radius coupled with speed. So what we would do is dual prop it. We would put both an Afterburner and a micro-warp drive on it, and perhaps it will have 3 mid slots so that it can have either a warp disruptor or a warp scrambler there. But let's also make its warp speed a bit faster than the standard Interceptor. This would create an Interceptor that is generally a bit superior to most other Interceptors. Now, I am not sure if this would break certain aspects of EVE. Perhaps such a ship could be expensive like the Nurgle and other Tech 2 Triglavian ships. However, I would certainly use such a ship. By the way, special thanks to Patreon member Rayan Andaleo for helping to come up with the name Mixcoatl for this ship. You can see works in progress, get 3D models, and even do like a short sort of commission for me for higher paying patrons if you want your name on a ship with a special animation. So go to patreon.com/resurrected and feel free to become a member. Also, super thanks are really welcome here. I just had to get this ship out. It's been in my head for ages and it had to come out. So I really took the time to get it out, and it took a long time to make because, damn it, EVE Online ships really are complex. I shall put out more EVE Online videos soon. I think I've figured out a way to continue my EVE Online story of my corporation and time in EVE. And I will also be doing more Star Trek content very soon. Thanks for watching. Until next time, space friends.